Good morning. I've been thinking a lot about distraction lately. I'm reading a book on it. I'm doing groups on it, and I've been thinking also about the opposite of distraction, which most people would say is focus. But really, focus is only helpful if it's consistent. So really, what I'm going to talk about today is consistency, and I'm going to ask the question initially: what do you get distracted with? What steals your attention? Do you get distracted with emails? Do you get distracted with texts? Do you get distracted with videos or shows or YouTube or searches on the internet? Is it games? Is it people? Is it other office workers? What is it that you get distracted with most? When we show consistency, what it does is something magical in our lives. It helps our business. It helps our relationships. It helps investing portfolios. It helps in everything. You find that the people who are most successful tend to be very consistent people. Now, that doesn't mean they're perfect. That's far from it. There are always other skills involved. But consistency is one of those skills that if you show it, it builds, in almost a magical way, so many relationships around you. Why? Because people start to trust you. When you're consistent, you are reliable in some ways. So if you're doing something, do it consistently. If you wake up at the same time. If you were shooting videos for your audience or whatever, do it consistently. Do it consistently because people will start to say, wait a second, this person doesn't get as distracted as other people that I'm seeing. We live in a very distracted world. We live in a world where it's very easy to be distracted by the shiny objects or the baubles around us. And we're almost trained to get distracted ourselves. I want to talk about a few skills that you can utilize. If you want to become more consistent in your life, there are a few skills that you can work on. And actually, one of those skills, maybe it's not even a skill, maybe it's a bit of a trick, okay, is to use your own brain, your own psychology in the way you typically work. And if you use that to your advantage, you will be more consistent. And that is accountability. Now, I'm not talking about accountability with your best friend or somebody that you know really well. I'm talking about accountability with usually somebody you don't want to disappoint. That's the best accountability partner you can have. We are social creatures. And because we are social creatures, there's something innate in us, in our psychology, that we don't want to disappoint somebody. We don't want to know that there might be consequences to our actions in relation to this person. Do you know that if you paint two eyes on a wall, there's good research that shows if you paint two eyes on a wall, that people will do what they believe is right more of the time. It doesn't even matter if there's a real person in the room. If there's simply two eyes painted on the wall, if we believe we're being watched on some level, we will act with more integrity. We will act with more consistency. And that's one key that we need to utilize in our own lives with consistency. One way to do it is to use accountability. So again, find somebody that you want to impress, find somebody that you don't want to let down, find somebody that you might not know extremely well, but it makes a difference knowing them. And if you have that as your accountability partner, you will be more consistent. Now, of course, you have to be honest with that person. You can't blatantly lie to somebody, but that consistency can be helpful. I've found there's a website that is free to utilize 3 times a week. Up to 3 times a week, you can utilize these sessions. They're really unique. I've tried it out lately, and that's why I'm recommending it, because it's been useful for myself. It's called Focusmate. Focusmate, I think it's focusmate.com, one word, focusmate.com. And in that group, you basically pick a time where you want to be focused for 50 minutes. And then it pairs you with somebody from around the planet. It could be anyone. And at the start of the 50-minute session, you say, hey, this is what I'm working on. They tell you what they're working on. And then for 50 minutes, with your camera on, you just work at your computer. That's it. The brilliance of this is that there's accountability. Somebody's watching you. And because that motivates us, that social aspect to it motivates us psychologically, we get more done. It's a phenomenal way of doing things. Now, there are ways to step this up. I've got a lot of other ideas, but for this morning, all I want to explain is that if you are accountable to people, you'll be more consistent. Here's a second way, another trick that you can be more consistent with. The more time, energy, or money you have invested in something, the more consistent you will be. If we invest something of ourselves, if it costs us something, we will be more consistent. This is why I love joining groups. Or I'll give you a few examples. If I join a group, I like joining a group where it costs me something, where it costs me time, energy, or money. I have to make some kind of commitment because then I will be more consistent. I will show up more often. Think about the groups that you've been part of that were free. Things that are free, we are not consistent with, generally speaking, because we don't see the value in them in the same way. They could be the same group. The same group. One we pay for, one we don't pay for. And we'll be more consistent with the one we pay for. So again, if it helps, utilize this on your own life. Have it cost something to be part of a group or a part of a project or to be consistent in some way. Because if it costs you something, you are more likely to follow through. A third skill example, I'm not sure is well, I guess it's more skill, is developing routines and habits. When we develop routines and habits in our lives, they have a phenomenal effect because we get into a pattern. We're pattern creatures. This is why people see us as reliable and trustworthy if we are consistent, because other people recognize patterns. We are pattern creatures. We're used to day and night. We're used to seasons of the year. We're used to things like this. So another recommendation is develop habits and routines. Now I'm going to put a link in the bottom of this video in the description to give you some help with habits. If you want help with habits and routines, I've got quite a few videos on those, and then that will help you along the way. I'll make those free for you, okay? You just have to watch them, that's it. And I'll put them in order so you don't have to go searching for them too much. I think it's a series of 10 videos or so. Habits and routines are fantastic. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention with this is to ask the question, where does luck fit in? Where does luck fit in? Because we know this in our guts. We know that if we are consistent with something for a period of time, we are more likely to be successful in it. Okay, it doesn't guarantee everything. Consistency is not the only thing, but it's one of the major things. I'll give you an example. I found consistently that was pun unintended. When we work on something like some type of marketing for a 6-month period. Constantly, consistently. If we work on it consistently, then usually we start to see good results from it, or at least some results. 6 months is this really unique period of time. I found this number over and over again. It's not always this way. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter, but often if we carry something through for 6 months, if we work on something hard for 6 months, if we're consistent for 6 months, we start to see results from that. Often what I see in businesses is that somebody, or investing, is that somebody works at something for a few weeks or a couple of months, and maybe in a few months they start to get leads from that, or they start to get results from that, but by then they've moved on to something else, so they're not able to realize. And they wonder why marketing techniques aren't going to work, or whatever it is. Be consistent with things. I've got a great mentor who's taught me for years, have a consistent newsletter, a consistent way that you reach out to people and help them, bring them value. And that will have long-term benefits. If you do it for 1 year, you get some benefits. If you do it for 30 years, you have huge benefits from it. Where does luck fit in? This is my belief about luck. Luck is when, and this is a quote, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. And opportunity is there all the time. Cicero said this, or this is paraphrased, but the key to what Cicero said, luck is when preparedness meets opportunity, is if we are doing what we need to do on a consistent basis, if we're doing what we need to do, then there's more likely the luck that the right situation will be there. I'll give you a couple of examples. If you are, let's use the example of real estate investing. If you are looking for properties every day, every single day, then you are more likely to find the property immediately that fits your goals and is a really good price, right? Because you're checking every day in the right places. Or business, again, if you are calling people, let's use networking as an example, and maybe next week I'll talk about networking a little bit more. If you are networking with people on a consistent basis, not everyone's going to turn out. And some people get lucky that the first person they meet helps them out a lot. We know that just a few great relationships, networking relationships, that can change people's lives. But you're more likely to find that person. You're more likely to get lucky if you are consistent. If you're consistently networking, then you're more likely to find that person when they're ready. Luck and consistency are tied together. Not because you get lucky if you are consistent. It's because if you are consistent, you are more likely to capitalize when there's a situation that can help you. If you're inconsistent, it's impossible to do that. It's impossible to do that and realize that all the time. Now it's only luck that you rely on. Hopefully this has been helpful. I've given you a few tips, a few key takeaways. The last thing I want to leave you with is if there's only one thing you could do, it's to join, it's to have something cost you something. That will help your consistency more than anything. It plays with our psychology. We don't want to lose something. So if we paid something, again, this could be money, it could be time and energy, it could be some other cost. But if it costs us something, that's an investment in ourselves. And it's helped me over and over and over again. If I invest in something, I'm more likely to follow through with it. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the end of your week.